What's going on YouTube? My name is Mr. Crippled, and today I want to go over the Titan talk with the Jormungandr review and all the changes they're going to be doing. And obviously the first thing I want to be talking about is Jormungandr per se. Before we really get into the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you'd like to keep up with any future content, I will be leaving a link to my Twitch and my Discord below. Now, Jormungandr is a Guardian type. His main scaling is magical, but it does seem like he's going to have some strength scaling with his abilities. We'll be going over all that here in a moment. But one of the first few changes that I wanted to talk about with Jorm is now his basic attack can proc item effects. So if you played Smite 1, you know that building anything that had to do with your basic attack damage or attack speed wouldn't affect your basic attacks at all. Now, not only can you proc item effects for 40% of the damage and 20% of the healing, but your attack speed will also directly affect how quickly his attacks will come back. How his basic attack works is that there's a little meter. Go ahead and rewind a little bit. There's a little meter right above his icon right here that will drain whenever he uses basic attacks. And each tick, the higher this is filled out, the more ticks you'll get per second. And the lower this is, the less ticks. So you'll actually do less damage. Now building attack speed will actually determine how quickly this depletes. So you could potentially do an attack speed build on him that focuses primarily on the first couple of ticks. I don't think it's all that necessary, but it is a nice and fun change that Jormungandr is receiving. And if you look right here, he's going to actually start basic attacking. And as you can see, the ticks is actually slowly depleting that meter. Now, the cool thing about this is that there is something else that is going to be happening in regards to his one, and that is the rate at which your one depletes is actually going to be significantly lower. So as long as you're standing in one of your pools, the gauge will actually deplete slower. So, of course, you get see that. Another pretty big welcome change is back in Smite 1, it was hard to see the person that was directly in front of you because of how big Jormungandr actually is. Now, if you pay attention, you can actually see you can actually see the outline of the god through Jormungandr, making it a lot easier to target the person in front of you, and it's a lot easier to aim your abilities at them. So if they fast forward just a little bit, see right here that now Ymir standing directly in front of him, you can see his outline, making it a lot easier to hit somebody. Another big thing that they're adding for Jormungandr is a change to his passive. They added a +1 to this. So in Smite 1, you couldn't be moved, and you couldn't be displaced. So banishes, grabs, knockbacks, levitates, those couldn't affect you. Instead, you're slowed and you gain a debuff called Daze, basically making you take increased damage. Now the new thing is that he has a new proccing passive. Whenever he deals damage with his basic attack or his one, they gain stacks, and once it hits the max stacks, they will take magical damage magical damage by a percentage of your health or percentage of strength, depending on which stat is higher. And if I go ahead and hit play here, and we fast forward a bit, he's gonna start hitting them, and then underneath Ymir's health bar, you see this purple bar start to increase. Hit him, please. Hit him. Okay, so you see this bar starting to build up, and then once it reaches max stacks, you can see that 79 proc up there, dealing extra damage to Ymir. So it's a nice little buff that he got, and it's gonna make it really hard to box into him. Next thing I want to go ahead and talk about is the one. Like I said earlier, I wanted to go ahead and showcase how it affects the basic attacks. But the first thing that I want to talk about is the new +1 that his one is getting. Not only does this slow, but this also reduces healing by 25%. So yes, Jormungandr is coming into the game with anti-heal, as if he wasn't already annoying enough. However, whenever you are in the haze, if I could show you, so you can see that the rate is depleting right now. If you basic attack while in the haze, it actually shortens the amount of time. As you can see, it actually basically increases the gauge and how long you can auto attack without worrying about this gauge depleting. So this is actually a really nice change. The next ability I want to talk about is the 2. Now this ability is basically still the same. They did mention that the scaling is going to be different. Before, it used to get nerfed by how many pools are down. It's a little bit easier for them to explain it. So I'm just going to play the audio here so they can explain it better.
So you do that, it grows up to 3 times, but now the buff here is actually that it used to do less damage based on subsequent damage effects, but now I think past 3. But now if you have more than 3 pools, which is unlikely, you'll actually just be doing the same amount of damage. That bonus damage that's there is technically uncapped, but the scaling is capped at 3.
Finally, with the 3, his little invis move, it's basically still the same. If you go underground, you go invisible. I believe now, while he's underground, he sends out a pulse that will reveal enemies that are stealth around you. And then now, whenever you take damage while in that stealth ability, it has a Loki effect to where if you take damage, they can kind of see you now. But it's not to the same degree back in Smite 1, where if you get hit, you're just completely revealed. Now in this game, it's more like Loki's, where if you get hit, you're partially revealed and then go right back invisible. So it's a nice little change. So now, my favorite part for the Jormungandr review is the changes to his ult. Now, the ult is basically the same. There's 2 new things that you really need to take notice of. Whenever you cast this ability, between the 2 rings and his teleport, like the 2 spots that he's basically leaping to, whenever he lands, there is a delayed explosion effect that is a line between both the portals that does damage. Also, now you can actually cast the ability closer to your body, so people who are like hugging where you originally at, they can no longer do that, because you can basically just dive right back on top of them. Makes it so much more useful in the close proximity fights, and I want to go ahead and showcase that to you now. So if we look right here, he's gonna cast the ultimate. Now, as you can see, that little line between both the circles, whenever he goes, there's a subsequent explosion effect that does do damage. As you can see, it actually hurt the Ymir bot right there. Now, if we fast forward, because again, as you can see, you could cast it so much closer to yourself, and the casting speed is actually a lot quicker. I apologize, my dog was barking at the wind, but again, as you can see, the casting can be put a lot closer to you, and you could do it a lot quicker. The casting time is, I think they said about 0.5 seconds quicker. So you can, if somebody is like hugging you, you could do potentially a lot of damage to them. And then still the same, wherever you land, that little one of these little pools is going to be left. The last thing I do want to talk about with him is regarding the wind sprites, as you can see right here. Whenever he interacts with it, you'll see that he actually doesn't really go anywhere. But instead, he just gains a movement speed buff, kind of like having the speed for a short amount of time. So no, you're not going to see Jormungandr using the wind sprite and a giant snake just flying over the wall without the ult. You're not going to see that. Instead, he's just going to gain a pretty big movement speed buff, and it's only for Jormungandr. So that's kind of a nice change. And then finally, the last thing I want to talk about is that Jormungandr does have strength scaling. The basic attack, the 2, the 3, and the ultimate all have strength scaling. Caveats to that, the 2's bonus damage you get from standing inside one of your pools only has int scaling, and all the strength scaling on his abilities are lower than his intelligence scaling. So yes, while it may be viable to be able to build strength into him, I'm not entirely sure if that's going to be 100% what you want to do. If you're going for ability based, that is. But because he can build basic attack damage and do a build off of that, he'll still do pretty decent damage with his 2, his 3, and his ults, building strength items. So there is still a little bit of not viability, but creativity with building Jormungandr. So I'm very excited for how this character is going to. All right, so the next thing I do want to talk about is that Jormungandr's aspect is pretty interesting. So if you look right here, Venomous Haze, your 1, no longer does tick damage, but instead gives buffs to your allies. While standing in them, you gain damage reduction. And then while you stand in them, you don't gain cooling, which is what affects the rate at which your basic attacks refresh. But instead, it lowers the cooldown on your 1. So you could potentially put a lot of these pools down on the ground, giving just a bunch of damage reduction to all your allies. And then now your 2, instead of gaining bonus damage, you give your teammates increased intelligence and strength, giving your teams buffs. So this is very interesting to say the least. I don't think this is really like a support thing, but you could definitely run this in support whenever he does get the aspect. But being able to give your team bonus intelligence and strength is going to be very, very great for those burst team fights or whenever you need to confirm objectives. Um, I think it's going to be a really interesting change for him. I think this is a really good direction for his aspect. It doesn't seem too broken, but it also seems very, very strong at the same time. Now, how good it is and how much you gain from it is not really going to be, you know, be able to like give a real gauge on it or be able to give a like, oh, this is going to be broke or this is going to be bad until this actually goes live, because it is live in the test servers right now, and some further testing with this aspect is definitely going to be needed. But this is still very much a welcome change. And I wanted to go ahead and showcase the cooldown reduction you gain on this. And it's not by a small amount either. The more pools you have around yourself, the quicker your one's gonna come off a cooldown. So if you look right here, he's standing in it. It reduces just one of these reduces it by a lot, and you basically have another one to throw out. This is gonna be very much gonna be a mana heavy build, but these do stack on top of each other. So if you put that down, you see that the one is being reduced by a lot very, very, very quickly. So this is going to be very fun to mess around with. The rest of the Titan talk kind of goes over some basic things. Agni and Cerberus are getting some new Prism skins. They look amazing. They look great. Other than that, there's not really much else going on with this patch. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys think about Jormungandr. I'm super excited for him as a solo main. And honestly, for support, he does look a little bit promising. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I want to thank all of y'all for watching, and y'all take care.